Good day and welcome to today's webinar, Building Precise Estimates with Structurally Sound Software. My name is Graham Braybrook and I am the Candy Regional Manager for UK and Ireland, and it's my pleasure to be conducting this webinar for you today. Just in extending my thanks to everyone that has taken the time out to attend for the next hour or so. Just as a part of the agenda, I will briefly go through a RIB introduction, what we do in terms of applications and services, why we do it. So what are the challenges that we're facing, that you are facing on a daily basis, and how do we really provide software that will prevent those challenges or make those challenges less challenging? Who we do it for, our clients and our personas, and lastly, a live Candy demo. In this demo, I will go through quite a high level of how the estimating on Candy is actually working and how it works, with a couple of tricks and tips here and there. As mentioned, this is only an hour long, so we might not be able to get to everything that we would like to, and that would obviously affect the intricacies of what we're going to show in terms of features and functions. So we will try and keep it to more of a high level, but please feel free at the end of this webinar, we will have a QR code. Please scan it, and you are more than welcome to ask any questions or queries from that link that is provided. You will also receive an email at the end of this webinar to say thank you for your time, and also a link to the recording of it. You're also very welcome to contact any of your local representatives or your local consultants. If there's anything that intrigues you within this webinar, please be free to contact them directly as well. So just starting with the RIB introduction, of course, our mission, the most important aspect of this is to empower engineering and construction professionals around the globe to build more efficiently and sustainably. We drive digital transformation that makes a difference to our customers' lives. As you can see, just a visual representation in terms of where we are found and where our offices are globally. We've been in the industry for over 60 years. And most importantly on this slide is that 550,000 users who remain at the center of everything we do. Our people, 2,600 odd employees for RIB are found across the globe that have walked in your shoes. And what we mean by that is a lot of my colleagues, myself included, have got a background within the construction industry. And lastly on this slide, just indicating, of course, we are owned by Schneider Electric and we form part of the Schneider Electric family. And with that, it's amazing the strategy that they look at digitalizing, obviously, our industry, as well as the sustainability strategies that are in place. Of course, alluding to the 12 years that they have been one of the most sustainable companies in the world. What we do in terms of applications and services, of course, when we look at anything on that current slide, bar mining, really everything is looked at within the construction industry. So whether you're a general contractor, civil, marine infrastructure, MEP, power and energy, the way that we are going to be estimating sinking a shaft for a mine, or the way that we do a linear meter of stainless steel high pressure pipe, it's all very similar in concept, right? We need plant, labor, material to actually complete the actual items. And of course, we need to manage those when we actually get on site. Just giving a brief introduction to a couple of other of our applications, which are seamlessly integrated to Candy. Of course, RIB Build Smart, which is our ERP system or the cost management solution, very much tailor-made when we look at accounting specifically for the construction industry. Then we have RIB Connect, which is really a powerful dashboarding analytic data-driven environment, web-based, and what that's really looking at is taking all the information that we have on Candy and Build Smart and being able to drive these analytics to give us that amazing, powerful information that we need to make the proper decisions at the correct times. And lastly, of course, RIB Candy, looking at estimation and project control. When we take all these three applications that we've just discussed, that I've just introduced you to, of course, when we look at a full process or a full life cycle of any project, it's very important that we understand that each one of these will fit into this in a different way. Now, what I mean by that is, of course, when we talk about the quantity takeoff, when we talk about forecasting and cash flow, all these different aspects will have a very important part to play in that process, and each of the applications will fit into that in a different way. But together, combining together to create a very, very powerful cost management system. Of course, with implementations and of course with software, it's very important that we have these other aspects which assist in implementing, which assist in our customers' use of the actual software itself. And important to us is, of course, training everyone, consulting, creating user groups and seminars, webinars like we have today, creating product resources and advising accordingly, and lastly, support. With most of our software at the moment being a subscription model, that support is obviously very important to us in terms of our business model, but it's also very important that we convey and make sure that you as clients or you as users are using the software to its fullest potential. And if there are any hindrances, that you have the ability to either phone us directly, to contact us via the support lines or directly, or even just a knowledge-based, let's say, webinar or knowledge-based training at any given time where it would actually suit you. So why do we do this? What are the challenges and the outcomes? Now, having been in your shoes and obviously understanding with the adversarial type of industry that we find ourselves in, there are many, many challenges. Whether it's specifically looking at a certain silo in the business, whether it's looking at the complete life cycle of a project, challenges, we face challenges every single day. Socio-economic challenges. These are all part and parcel of the industry and which make construction very exciting, but also very daunting industry to be in. And these problems and these issues occur across all the stages of the project life cycle, not specifically only in the estimating side, and not only when it comes to breaking ground or when it comes to actually completing the project. They happen on a regular basis. And these are some of the pain points that we have found. You know, when we go to clients or when we see new clients or when we implement new clients, these are the issues that they face. And it's not just one company that faces, it's multiple companies, because we all face the same issues and the same pain points. So to not go into too much detail, so some of the pain points that have obviously been raised, not knowing where you are on a project until after the fact, of course, being able to make specific decisions based on the information that we have. And if we don't have that information, how do we make the correct decisions? So we're always reactive rather than proactive. No access to real-time information for on-the-fly decision-making. Departmental silos in the company with no sharing of information. Of course, also very important, you know, how powerful is information between our different silos within the organization. So be able to share information from even within a silo, even within the estimating department, from one estimator to another estimator, from a junior estimator to an estimating manager or the head of estimating. Being able to share that information, of course, very, very important, because as a team, far more stronger than just an individual. And I think even when you look at sharing the information that the estimators have created to the project team to be able to maintain those allowables, to be able to maintain the budgeted figures, it's very important when it comes to protecting our margins and protecting our expected profits. Too many systems being used from estimate to final account. Of course, also always one of those things is the integration between multiple softwares and multiple vendors. How do we actually go about that? You know, one of those difficult things is that we've got one system doing that, we've got another system doing that, and another system doing that, and they don't really all talk to each other. Generic financial systems, of course, not really looking at construction accounting, as I mentioned, and of course, the complexities of within the construction industry, subcontractors, all of these payment terms, all of these specifics, having some other pain point for, obviously, for our clients or for users, previous users. Too much data held in Excel, of course, another one of those things that have popped up in the past, and also this is one of the things that we hear on a regular basis, is that the problem that we have with Excel, and it's also not one of those items that I want to go into in much detail, but I would assume that a lot of you feel the same pain points as a lot of clients or people have had by using Excel in the past. So lack of control and security, vulnerable to fraud and corruption, susceptible to trivial human errors. One of the biggest things is the human error, and it could be a minor error, could be a very simple error, but could actually cost a lot down the line for the company and the specific project. Difficult to troubleshoot or test, right? One of those things is that the flexibility of being able to put all these worksheets together, the formula, the creations, very difficult to test what is incorrect or if there are any issues with any of the formulas that you've got. Hard to consolidate, and lastly, the data integrity of the Excel file. So many of these pain points or many of these issues can obviously have a very small impact if it was one project or two projects, and if it was over 1 year or 2 year. But you have multiple projects, you have the same issue over multiple years, and it's a snowball effect on the actual project, right? Or the actual problem. So minuscule for one instance, if that instance is not fixed or not prevented, the knock-on effect down the line could be very detrimental to the business. So who are the clients and who are the personas that actually use our software? Of course, when we look at the construction industry, all those professionals that you see on the screen over there, whether you're an estimator, quantity surveyor, specialist subcontractor, business owner, a contractor, procurement manager, an IT lead, or an executive. There are a whole host of features and functions which would be beneficial for each one of those different professionals. Whether you're an estimator and using Candy estimating, you're a business owner, you're looking at analytics, you're looking at reports, whether you are a procurement manager. So basically, what we have created on the estimate, creating the procurement list and the shopping list for the actual project, being able to procure to those budgets, to those allowables, to that quantity, of course, very important for us as a software vendor, and of course you guys as the actual users. So just to give you a brief introduction to some of our clients, firstly looking at UK and Ireland, and some of Europe, South Africa, Sub-Sahara Africa, Middle East and North Africa, India, and lastly, Australasia. Just moving on to the RIB, the features, or the RIB Candy features and functionality. Of course, when we look at digitalizing and when we look at using software, there are obviously value adds that software needs to create. And shown on the screen currently are the main aspects or the main value adds that digitalizing your business or digitalizing your processes is, of course, these are the boxes that need to be ticked. So looking at increased accuracy, control, and visibility when preparing estimates, being transparent with the estimates, being able to, let's say, build up the estimates, being able to audit those estimates, being able to manage what has been created and adjust according to any, let's say, contract adjustments or any, let's say, possible aspects that could change the estimate. Very important that you're able to do that. Saves time, greatly reduce errors, and empowers confidence. Of course, when you're saving time and you don't have any errors, I would assume that the confidence is very high. But some of the features that you will see a little bit later, of course, that's exactly it. We understand that there are lots and lots of issues around time, being able to make our estimates faster, and at the same time making them accurate, of course, very important. Powerful tender and resource analysis, planning, forecasting, robust reporting. Of course, when we look at powerful tender and resource analysis, that's where Candy comes in. Is it's a resource-based estimate. Resource-based estimate. Right. Apologies, seems to have jumped. Right, resource-based analysis, looking at planning, forecasting, and robust reporting. Of course, reporting, very, very important when signing off an estimate or signing off a tender, or even just identifying how the job has been tendered. The ability to report, very important. And it's because all this is being built into the software and included in the software that it's no extra hassle. It might be a customization that we need to go through. It might be I need to identify what I want to see and how I want to see it. But all the information, of course, being built up from the estimate side and from the creation of this resource-based estimate. Combines powerful features into a single user interface, eliminating departmental silos. Once again, alluding to the transparency of the estimates, being able to break down those departments and being able to share the information, firstly within our estimating team, and then of course through the project team and the life cycle of that project. How have the estimating team built up this tender? Is it how we're going to be building it? Do we need to remodel it? Is there value engineering, better buying? But because of that transparency, that is the ability that we have to change. Based on industry best practices and processes, with continuous development based on user input and industry requirements. So for over 40 years that Candy has been around, that is how the system has been built. That's how the system has been developed, is listening to our users, understanding what's happening in the industry, and then obviously converting that into the actual software under the enhancements. Simplifies and streamlines the bidding process. Of course, anything that we do in terms of building into development and developing and enhancing the software would lead into streamlining the business or the bidding process. So whether it's importing Excel, bill of quantities, whether it's creating resources or complex resources, whether it's the ability to actually link to a forecast or planning, of course, that bidding process and the simplification of that bidding process, this is where the software becomes powerful to use. Dynamic integration to build smart for upfront purchase control. Of course, with the resource-based estimate, we are creating that procurement list, so the shopping list for the project. So what is the total allowable that we have for labor, for fuel, for our how many pockets of cement do we need for this project? Because we pricing down to the nuts and the bolts, that's the type of information that we create, and that's the type of information that would go to these different silos for us to start and for us to prevent any loss of profit, or to procure to what has been allowed to procure based on what has been created in the actual estimate. And lastly, versatile and scalable. So whether you're a small, medium, or large entity, Candy is very scalable to your business. Whether you are just using it for estimating, whether you're using it for estimating, including project control, the scalability is entirely up to you. Right, so just jumping onto the Candy features. Now, obviously, when we go into the live demo, I will be showing you a little bit of this as well. And of course, starting with the QTO, unfortunately, depending on the time, we might not get to a QTO, but I might be able to show a little bit of it. But of course, that's just dependent on our time. Then we look at estimating. Of course, definitely that's part and parcel of the actual software, and that's the backbone that drives a lot of the processes down the line. So whether if we are pricing down to the nuts and the bolts, and we're pricing using resource-based estimating, free format makeup sheets, this is the power but behind Candy estimating. And this is where the rest of Candy also becomes very, very important. Because we're putting in that hard work with the estimate and the creation of this, we are now able to forecast. We are now able to let's say, post control and manage the project post-tender. But on the estimating side, being able to create your indirect costing as well, or your indirect BOQ, I will obviously show you a little bit of a demo on that. Being able to do subcontract adjudication and material adjudications, being able to complete your markups, the finalization process. Of course, when we look at creating worksheets, being able to include your productions, your resources, your man hours, and of course, your wastage analysis, right? Being able to allow for waste, being able to control waste, and being able to give you an allowable to understand where that wastage is, of course, very important in terms of possible risk to a contract. And then lastly, integration between the planning and cash flow. So planning, forecasting, and the cash flow, all part and parcel of Candy, all part and parcel of the subscription fee that is paid. Of course, when we look to the planning, very much precedence in networking, Gantt charts, being able to do exactly what any third-party application can do. But the only difference is there's no link directly to the estimate from the third party. But in Candy, of course, you've got that link directly to the estimate with the plan. But sticking on the plan, being able to create long lead schedules, time location charts, and of course, actually being able to base your program, being able to progress your activities. These are all part and parcel of the system itself. We then look at forecasting. Of course, forecasting is really just the combination of the money from my estimating, the time from my planning, and then I've got a host of information and features which will provide very powerful forecasting capabilities in the actual software. So being able to forecast my budgets and my revenue, being able to identify when I require resources on site, forecasting my manpower, being able to view histograms, S-curves, all of that is if we've combined and we've taken that extra step of combining our estimate and our plan. Of course, then we look at cash flow, very much a pre-tender cash flow, but it's taking all that information that we had on the forecast and we're just adding a little bit more of what is going to affect my cash flow. So payment lags, escalation, financing costs, advances and loans, retentions, net present values, when do we close our costs, when does the client pay us, when do we actually pay our labor, our plant, our subcontractors. All of these aspects and all of these, let's say, peripheral aspects would create or would have an effect on our cash flow. And from that, we'd be able to obviously give you from the system or in the system weekly, monthly cash flow forecasts, and really giving you an identifying on whether you are going to be cash positive or cash negative. Are you financing this project? Is the client financing the project? And if it works, obviously, and if it is negative in your let's say in this project, then of course going back to the client to say, hey, we need to discuss some of these contracts, or we need to discuss a different way, and even tighten up a little bit around payments of labor, plant, etc. Then we go into valuations. Of course, it's not reinventing the wheel in any way. It's taking the estimate that has been built in the estimate from the estimating team and really just then working it onto site. So as a quantity surveyor, we are on site and we obviously need to progress the work. And part of these valuations, being able to remodel your estimate or change it to how you and the project team want to build the job, incorporating better buying, of course, something which is synonymous with every single project we always work on is variation orders. And what impact does that variation order have on our cost reporting? What impact does it have on the finances of the actual project? And of course, what is the risk that we might take? So being able to define whether a variation order has been approved, whether it's unapproved, part of the actual system. being able to evaluate your post-tender indirects as well. And also very important, being able to produce an allowable. So once we've done the work, we've measured the work, we need to produce a claim to the client. We can also, of course, adjust to view what has been certified at a certain date or based on the claim. Every single one of those variances between either one of those quantities will have an impact of some sort on the cost reporting under claims, over claims, etc. Subcontract management, very much exactly what it's describing what it does. It's really just managing the subcontractors on site. But this is now also identifying each subcontractor, the package, their bill items, being able to progress those bill items on them, being able to allocate variation orders specific to the subcontractor and linking it back to the main contract let's say variations, are very important. So we are able to create subcontract liabilities and a wonderful subcontract summary if we do manage the subcontractors on the subcontract management, manager. Of course, being able to produce certificates is possible as well, and that's all part and parcel of the system. And lastly is the cost and allowables. So very much the business end of the valuations. Now, from the cost and allowables, once we do our measurement, we produce an allowable to date. We can obviously import from an Excel file for our costs, and we can do a cost value reconciliation as at now. Then also looking at what's still to come. So being able to forecast our final costs at completion, also very important and very, very powerful within the system is what we can do. So what is the resource, what is the price of the resource that we're paying currently versus what the price was from the estimating team or at the start of the project. And of course, with the ability to change wastages, productions, change our worksheets as we go forward, and with those changes, being able to relay those cost worksheets back to the estimating team to create and proceed with more accurate estimates. And so it's a full process and a full life cycle. It's a full work back from the site back to our estimating team for them to be able to estimate based on what has happened on site for our next tender for our next project. Now, what you see on the screen, apologies if I mentioned this, hopefully I have, but everything that you see on the screen is part and parcel of Candy. So when you subscribe or when it's a rental, these are part of the actual software. And as mentioned, if we do not go down to resource-based pricing or resource-based estimating, a lot of what you see on here and on the screen is not possible. With the resources, with an allocation of time, we would be able to create a baseline forecast, and of course, being able to measure it and being able to measure back to our program and back to the cost, being part of the earned value management, and being part of those key performance indices that we in the construction industry like to manage. Right, so that's it for the PowerPoint presentation. I am now going to jump onto the live software demo. And as mentioned, we do not have much time within this webinar, so I will try and get through as much as possible. And firstly, it is just going to share my Candy and apologies, I'm just going to launch it, just apologies for that. There we go. All right, so what you see in front on the screen currently is obviously Candy. We're currently sitting on the job manager, and very simply, this is really just the way that we can store, organize our projects within different folders or within different headings, and it just creates an easy way to identify where these jobs are, where the projects are. So what I'm going to be looking at is I'm going to be jumping on a project called the Candy Demo Job to 2023. I'm going to double click and open it up. So currently in this job, of course, when we look at the major features, and these are the ones that I've just shared with you, we start with the estimating, the planning, link and forecast, cash flow, valuations, subcontract manager, cost and allowables, and of course the materials received, which is a basic stock control feature, as well as drawings, a very basic drawing register feature that you can have and can use on the system itself. So firstly, importantly, on the top right is our version number. So that's the current version that we're working with. And importantly to understand is that we update the system on a regular basis. So whether we are including enhancements or betterments of features, we would most of the consultants will promote that you will request that you update your system on a monthly basis, just so you get those new features and you're able to use those new functions as well. Very important is the support on the top right. As I mentioned right in the start, support is very important to us, and it's very important that we have that an excellent level of support for our clients and our users. Understanding those deadlines, understanding the timeframes that you're working under and the stress you work under, not being able to do something on a software is very problematic. So you have the ability to pick up the phone and phone us on all our information is included and embedded on the software, as you can see, all the way down to our UK team and UK contact details. Of course, you've also got the ability to open the help center. Now that help center is a fantastic, let's say, usage, and it's a fantastic asset to have, especially if you are looking at, let's say, a little bit more information on a certain function on Candy. How do I do certain things? The Help Center is a fantastic asset for you to go and view with step-by-step guides, copies of certain webinars, Vimeos. All these videos and help files and technical guides are there. Frequently asked questions for you to go and view, and for you to download, or for you to go and assist with any of your questions on Candy. Right, we're going to go start off on the estimating side, and first is opening the bill of quantities. And as you see on the screen currently, this is a very basic grid. And when I say very basic grid, it consists of columns, it consists of rows, and it consists of cells, right? And that's as basic as the structure gets. But behind everything, there is some more other information. So if I look at the bill quantity and I double click on that bill quantity, you'll see that there is a buildup of that bill quantity. So a lot of the database and a lot of the features and functions are obviously included and have been built into the system already. So we understand that the net amount is the bill quantity times the net rate. We don't need to go and define, the users don't need to go and create any formulas. That's how it works. Now, very important about these documents is they are completely customizable. Well, I say completely customizable. You have got approximately 300 odd columns on the left-hand side to allocate to your current view on screen. So if I wanted to go and find a certain column, I want to add the final quantity onto the view, it's literally select and drag and drop onto my view. If I wanted to change the order, you could just obviously use your up and down arrows. And once you've defined it and you're happy with that, press OK, and there it is, right? It's as simple as that. And when you initially obviously start with Candy, the document manager, this is where all the default documents are stored, and you've obviously got a host of different documents that you can go and look at and go and open depending on the information that you want to see. Of course, being able to look at price codes, resources, etc., all got different default documents, and every single one you could customize to your view that you require within the business. Right, just to start off, I'm going to go and create a new job, just to show you and indicate how easy it is to start a project and to start pricing on Candy. So I'm going to create this, and we're going to call this webinar tender 2. Press OK. And as soon as I double click and open it up, and to open up the bill of quantities, the first thing it's going to ask you is, do you have a template, or do you have a master project that you would like to use to price this? Now, in simple instances, a master project is any previously priced project that you want to use as a template. So it could have different bill items, it could have different resources, you could have multiple masters, but one master at any given time. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and change it. I want to go and select the company or the job that I would like to use, and it's by webinar master project. Select OK and OK. And now it's gone and created it in the background. I'm just going to remove that final quantity. And there we go. So creating a BOQ, it's very simple in terms of, if I had an Excel file to create this bill of quantities, it's as simple, and just bear with me. I'm going to quickly go and select my Excel file. There is my Excel file, and I'm going to go and simply just go select all of it, copy, and I'm going to go back to my Candy. On my bill of quantities, right click, and I'm going to paste, and then I'm just going to identify to Candy what I've imported. So of course, the first one is my level, and I'm going to just drag and drop that on. My item number, my bill description, my unit, and lastly, my bill quantity. Of course, if there is other information that has been sent to you from the consultant or the client, please by all means go ahead. On the left-hand side, there are lots of columns which you can add to that as well. If I'm happy with that, I'm just going to press continue. There's a validation and a status report. I'm going to close that. And that's as simple as it is, and how simple as it is to import from an Excel file. If I was building up a project from, let's say, a standard system of measurement or a bill of quantities that is regularly used, creating that from your master is very simple. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to highlight it all. I'm going to delete it, yes, and I'm going to use my master or my template project to actually bring in that standard system. So just not quite a standard system, but the way that this is structured, this BOQ, that's the way I want to import it. So I'm going to collapse the heading levels, and I know that my new project has got earthworks, and within that earthworks, there are a whole bunch of bill items. All I'm going to do is I'm going to select that heading level, drag and drop it on, and that will bring through all the items that I want, including the quantity and the rates. I can also go and select multiple items as well. So if I had multiple items, let's say intermittently throughout the BOQ, I can go and select those as well. And that's what I'm going to do for that, and drag and drop. And as you can see, as soon as I've brought that through, I've created my bill of quantities for this project. Of course, being able and having a couple more, let's say, advanced, you've got the addendum merger. So if you have and you are priced, let's say, halfway priced your items or your bill items, and the consultants issue an update or an addendum, you can then go and compare the different versions of the BOQ and allocate the new items as it needs to be allocated into your priced or your progressed priced BOQ. And lastly, description matching. So if I had a description or a match between my master, let's say the bill item description is matching some of my master items, I can description match, and that would automatically price the items accordingly. All right, just going back to the original project, which is my Candy demo job 2023. Of course, the power behind Candy and the power behind the estimating on Candy is the actual worksheets themselves. So this is the heart of the system and the way we build it up. So this is a free format makeup sheet, and this is where the resources are priced and the items are priced. So For any worksheet, we require resources. So on my resource list, I'll go and open that up. And as you can see on the resource list, this is anything that you can buy or hire, your materials, your labor, your plant. And clearance strip site, I need to go and price. And I want to price firstly with some labor. So I'm just going to collapse all of my items or all of my heading levels. And I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm going to look for labor. And there it is over there. I've obviously created a couple of heading levels to be able to find my resources a little bit more easily. And under labor operatives, there's my labor. And I'm going to select that and drag and drop that onto the worksheet. I also need some plant for this because that's as the estimator for this project. That's the way I'm going to be completing the works. I need my plant and I need some excavation. And there's a JD14 digger loader. And I also would like you to note, just as you've seen that, you'll see that there is an attribute or a color that's been allocated to that resource. Now that is just identifying that that JD14 digger loader is a complex resource. And a complex resource is really just a combination resource. So it is a combination of either simple resources, or a simple resource is defined as anything you can buy or hire. And this is one of those value adds that I was talking about, is once we've created these complex resources, these combination resources, being able to price faster because of the buildup of them, of course, very important for the speed and the ability to get those estimates out a lot faster. So that is one that I've created, the JD14 digger loader. I want that on my worksheet, literally drag and drop. Now, the way that these worksheets were originally created, it's based on a free format makeup sheet. So the way that I write it down on a piece of paper is the way that I can actually price on the worksheet. So I know that I need 3 men for this work, and as I go, I will go and type it out there, times 3 men. I also have a production. So what I will do, there's lots of small, nice features and functions within the system that you will learn, or if you don't know, please ask your consultants or the regional in the regional areas. And a lot of nice little functions. So this is an applied factor, and what I'm going to say is I'm going to apply a production to both of these resources. So I'm saying that these guys can work 750 square meters per day. I'm happy with that. I press enter. As you can see, that has now applied it to both my resources. It has automatically given me what the labor aspect of is in my net rate, what my plant is, and what my material is. Store the worksheet, and there I've priced the item. Now I can rework and I can reuse that worksheet. So if I had an item which has previously been priced, and that's how I'm going to do this excavating class A material, is I'm going to price it with a previously priced item. And that item is going to be coming from my template, or is going to be coming from my master project. Now, I know excavate in bulk class A material. I haven't priced anywhere else, right? I haven't priced anywhere else. So I need to go, and I understand that my template of my master project has priced one which is similar. And all it is, it's a matter of right-clicking on the price code, allocate it from my actual master, and I can go and look at which one, excavate in bulk. There are a couple over here, bulk excavation card of site. That's the one I want to use, green tick, and there I've allocated and I've priced it. And if I want to go and see what that makeup is on that worksheet, it's literally double click, and that's how I've derived the number. Now, if anything has changed, if we see that the productions are not going to be met, or the ground conditions are a little bit harder, which will increase my production or decrease my production, I can go in and make those adjustments. And once I have, store the worksheet, and that information is there. And the same thing that I'd like to do for excavating foundations not exceeding 2 meters deep. If I understand, or if I have a previously priced item, and this again, it's going back to the value or the speed at what I can price in Candy. It's going back to that value add of speeding up my pricing. So opening up the worksheet and being able to say, well, from my master template or from my master job, I know I've got an item there which is similar to the way I want to price this one. And it's literally clicking on it, holding that down and dragging it onto the worksheet, and it will bring all the information through that I have got. Store the worksheet, and I've priced it. calculate, and then we have our subtotals according to each of the line items. We have priced these items, and I'm happy with it. You are more than welcome to go, of course, to go and reopen them again and go and adjust according to any changes that have occurred on the project or any changes that have occurred in the contract documents or the specifications. Of course, very important as well on the resource list, if I have allocated a resource to the project. So one of those things is my fuel. What happens if my fuel price changed? Obviously, if we have come and we've said that the final rate is 6.3, but with the increases, you know, inflation, it's all jumped up to about 6.5 per litre. And as soon as I do that and I close this, click on my BOQ in the background, and that 3.9 that I originally had to calculate that has now jumped to 3917 because of that increase in the fuel or because of the increase on the petrol. Or whatever rate or whatever resource you've adjusted. And if I go back to that 3.82 for my clear and strip site, and I go back to this JD14 digger loader, the complex resource and how I built that up, of course, now includes for that latest price in diesel, which has now been included on that complex resource within the worksheet. All right. So a fantastic way, easy way of updating, maintaining the prices, using the master, creating the bill of quantities from Excel, and of course being able to price with as fast as possible and as accurately as possible. Now, a quick thing that I would just like to share with you, of course, when we look at things like our resource list, as mentioned, this is my total document of all the materials of the labor, etc., that are being used either in the company or within this project. These need to be obviously updated regularly. You can keep it. There are various procedures that you can follow for that, but best is phone your local support and they can advise of best practices. But a couple of things just to as well to identify when we look at the resources, there are a whole host of little other information that we can allocate to the resources, including discounts, surcharges, currencies. And if you're purchasing resources at different currencies or internationally, of course, what effect is that going to have on your rate? What effect is that going to have on the currencies that you need to purchase for as well? And all of these are reportable on the actual system. So what currency do you need to purchase on the actual project? And of course, if you are purchasing it at different currencies, what are you reporting to the client in? So you might be purchasing everything in pounds, but you might need to define your currency to the client in dollar, in a dollar format or a dollar currency. You have got the ability to do that and define up to 16 different currencies per project on Candy itself. But just quickly going back to our adjudicators as well. So when we look at the pricing of the bill of quantities, not only are we being able to build up these rates and the worksheets with the resource-based first principles, but we also have the ability to, of course, go and adjudicate to our subcontractors if we are, of course, going to look at and we're going outside of our direct works to subcontract the works. So I've created a package called architectural metalwork, and as you see when I open it up, there are a host of different columns that we've got written back to my main bill items on the left-hand side, the rates and the bill or the bill quantities from the main BOQ, and of course the subcontractors have included the prices. So I've got subcontractor 1, subcontractor 2, subcontractor 3, and what I've done via a criteria and via a copy, I've actually created Mr. Average because I have not got my let's say my preferred supplier or preferred subcontractors prices in, and these are the rates that I want to use in the interim. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, firstly, I can go and do a comparison of my quotations, a very quick monetary comparison, looking at maximum makeups, minimum makeups, and any other, let's say, aspects that could affect your monetary comparison. So I'm going to close that. I'm happy with Mr. Average that I've created. I'm going to go and say rates to my bill, and I'm going to send those rates to the actual worksheets that I've created. Okay, range transferred 6. As you see, as I scroll across, it's been highlighted. It's also identified that the main bill items prices are there. And when I close that and I go back to my BOQ, you'll see they automatically update on the BOQ calculate. And there's my subtotal for the subcontracted works. Of course, being able to price our direct works, as important is looking at our indirects. And of course, Candy has a host of estimating indirects or host of features when it comes to indirects. So just to give you an idea what that looked like, of course, you've got multiple aspects or multiple features as to how we capture them. But most importantly, the way that we price our direct bill items are the same way that we price our indirect items. So if I go and have a look at my contracts manager, I look at the rate that he's got over there. How did I get to that figure? It's literally double click, and that is how I've got it. So the worksheets that we use on the bill items or the direct bill items are the same type of worksheets that we use on the indirect items as well. Of course, being able to identify the number. So we might have multiple contract managers. They might be working a certain factor. So if one contract manager is working on 4 different projects, they're probably going to be costed to 25% of each one of those projects. All of that features and functionality are there. Being able to identify how long he's going to be on the contract. So is he month 1 to month 6, or he's going in from month 1 to month 24, you can go and you can update and you can include those on there as well on this input of the indirects. You also have the ability to allocate the indirects to on a bar chart. And of course, very importantly, you can hammock this to activities. So if there are variations and you need to be able to prove extensions of time and cost of those extensions of times for your P&G items, you can go and view that and you can report on those as well. Right, I'm going to close this. One last thing when it comes to the indirects, of course, depending on the contract, depending on the bill of quantities that you have, if I am looking at spreading the indirects over the direct BOQ, of course, that is a possibility that you can do. Depending on the BOQ, if there are items that are specifically looking at your indirects, you can obviously cost them according to those bill items. If they are not, as mentioned, you can go and take the cost of those indirects and spread it over the selling over the rest of the BOQ items. And that leads us onto the markup. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up my document manager. And to start off, there's a host of different ways that we can include markup. So to open up a markup bill, it's the same feature, it's the same BOQ. There are just added columns onto this specifically for the progress or the process that we want to undertake. So markup percentage, you've got different features: trade markup, resource type risk, marking up all the trades, set a gross total. So in this instance, if I saw that gross total was 4 million and management decided that we could sell this job for maybe 4.7 million, 4.8 million, of course, you could go and put that in and we would then pro rata the revenue or the markup over the items that you have already allocated. And whether it's an individual, when we want to front load, all of those features and functions are possible on the actual software. Of course, now going into, I know we're running out a bit of time. Of course, when we look at auditing and being able to manage and identify how these items and how these estimates have been built up, you can obviously have on-screen information. And this is all generated from the system, and it's all generated from the worksheets that have been built up and the information that you have created. So as you can see, the clearance strip site, there's my JD14 digger loader, my laborer. I require a production as you see over there. My net usage, I require 7 days on my JD14 digger loader and 22 man days for my labor at a total allowable as indicated over there. I can also have right-click functionality. So if I need to drop it down to my simple resources, I can see that. And of course, a lot of these documents that you see on screen come with a lot of this information built up in it already, right? If I wanted to see different, let's say, rates, being able to audit the rates that it was at any given stage, what my selling rate was to my client was, what my bid rate was at a certain time, I have the ability to go and adjust and create those accordingly. and we can just update that over there. And lastly, when we look at reviewing, we also look at visual aspects of the system. So being able to look at trade totals display, adjusting how I want to see it and what I want to see in those trade totals, being able to, let's say, also specifically, as you see, as I click on any one of these, it will adjust the graphs on the visual aid. You've also got the ability to report. So on the report manager is a host of various reports that you can run. And just for this, we've got various reports that you can see. One of these reports, if I would like to customize it, it's really just right click, customize the report. I can change how I want to see the report, the item selections, the columns that I want to use. Do I need to change the heading feature or the heading information of that column? All this information is possible to update on these reports and various reports that you can run from the report manager. What that looks like, if I go press OK and I'm going to print preview, there you see. So that's a worksheets per bill item. Got some fantastic information coming out there. A lovely tool for management and for other estimators to identify how this project has been priced. Of course, the ability to see my full procurement list, of course, is also there. So webinar or my resource list, and I'm going to just go and say print preview. There we go. So a nice little tool for us to see what total usage, what total quantities are allowed or provided for from the estimate. So when we look at my labor at a total of 161.2 per day, I require 6,586 man days on this project at a total allowable of over 1 million, whatever the currency might be. I might also go through a process of saying, okay, well, I do have multiple reports that I would like to run. These are management reports that I'd like to see for every tender. And basically, if I create a heading level, I can create these reports within it, customize them accordingly. And if I want to go and run them, it's literally print the PDF book, and that will then go ahead and print the different reports. And that's as far as I've come. I would like to thank you very much for the time. My apologies if I didn't get to everything, but as mentioned, there was a lot of information and a lot of things to get through. I hope you enjoyed it. Please scan the QR code. If you have any questions, queries, by all means, go ahead. You will receive an email in the next day or so, just thanking you for your time. I think there would be a recording of the actual webinar. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and we wish you all the best.